Hello, I'm ShieldWar100 and welcome to an extra special edition of Batman Miniatures Game Battle Reports. Today I have an opponent for the first time, and that's good, because that's how the game should be played, so I don't know all the cards and everything in advance. This is going to be a bit more different, I hope. Today's game is going to be a nice basic battle report between a Batman crew, which my friend Kevin has, and a Court of Owls crew, which I will be controlling today. Please check out the link in the description below for the Top Hatted Hamster web store for 10% off your first or next purchase. I'm not employed by them, but they offered me the discount to put out there, so I thought it'd be nice to pass that on. Okay, let's get on and see who's in which crews and why we're taking them. Okay, here's the Court of Owls crew that I'll be controlling for today. As you can see, I've opted to take the court themselves as the leader of the crew, as opposed to Lincoln March, who's the other option they've really got now. I like the court; it's much more thematic to me than taking Lincoln March and a bunch of Talons. I like their intel support ability, and they're quite cheap, which enables me to take a bit more of the variety of my choice when it comes to the Talons as well. I'm looking forward, and I love the model too, of course. All the models are good, but I really like this one. So that's why they're on the board today. In terms of who my free agent is, it's going to be Calvin Rose there, as opposed to the other option you've got for the crew, really, who's the Gotham Butcher. I usually take the Gotham Butcher, but today I'm taking Calvin because he comes with his own themed objective card, and again I wanted to try out a different model, and he's got quite an interesting nuance. He still hits hard enough though, and the Gotham Butcher is a massive bullet magnet, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. He did pretty well in the practice game we ran through as well, so here's high hopes for him. He'll probably get arrested straight away. Oh no, he can't be arrested. That's the good thing. That's what screwed over my Kevin last time as well, so yeah, that's good. In terms of the henchmen for the crew, we've got 1880s Talon, Dementor there. We're going for Ephraim Newhouse with his amazing ability for primary loot, allowing me to use my opponent's suspect markers as my own. That's really useful for prey and marking people as prey, And finally, William Cobb, the quintessential Talon from the comics, who I'm hard pressed not to take. Again, he has his own specific objective card to add to the deck, so it gives me an extra pull to use him as well. Yeah, I like them. But all these henchmen are basically variations on the theme of run around quickly and stab people a lot. So pretty thematic, as I said. It's a pretty standard Court of Owls crew. Even if people took different models, the gameplay style is pretty much determined for them. So yeah, let's get on. I'll show you what's in the Batman crew.
Okay, so this is the Batman crew that I have picked for today to take on the Court of Owls. After our practice game, I've used this crew once before, and it went rather well. Court of Owls is ridiculously fast, so I've adapted some of my crew to match that out. So we've got Batman and Red Robin, both taken because not only are they hard to hit, but they both have bat claws, and I've also given a bat claw to Officer Merkel, because although the Court of Owls is fast, if you're moving vertically a large distance at a time, it makes them very difficult to catch up with you. I've also focused on taking GCPD Detective, Sergeant Harvey Bullock, and Agent 1. That means I'm now saturating what I've got with a lot of people with the detective ability, 2 people with the order ability, and 4 people with the arrest ability. Red Robin also adds in some hacking, which means if I put some of my suspect markers in the wrong place, they can be moved so I can score easier. And I've also got Harvey Bullock with evidence tampering. Again, it's going to be all about the manipulation of those suspect markers, and not so much about me getting punched in the face.
Okay, models are all down, we're deployed, and let's see who's where. I'll start with my crew since I'm holding the camera. The Court of Owls, you can see the court themselves at the top of this store here. Dementor is also here. Oh, before we get going, Kev, could you pass me the deployment card so I can show it on the camera? Sorry about that. Just so you guys know, because it's a bit of a weird one. This is Jewel, There's the text if you want to read it, but basically it's corner deployment zone with a funky marker that only our free agents can go near, and that's what we'll be showing you now. So yes, I got lumped in this corner, with it mostly dominated by the Star Store, and yes, which is nicely constrained me. Dementor at the front of the Star Store, turns out that he can fall all the way down to the ground without taking damage. That's useful. Yes, Dementor's actually got genetic alteration, so he's got the fast raw 2 extra inches movement. That's nice. That's out on a few of my models. Like I said, the Court is the leader, carrying at the back, able to give him audacity, or to give him inspiration as the game progresses, and then they'll be able to move off themselves. Calvin Rose, my free agent, has to be out here within this part of the store's rooftops. We've got undercover movement from the Talon William Cobb here. He's able to escape the trap of the store and get out into the streets. So he's moved forward a little bit. And in the alleyway behind, I've got my 2 other Talons, the 1880s Talon and Ephraim Newhouse there, both handling next to the sewer marker and also within inspiration range of the Court themselves. So yeah, hoping to mitigate the problems caused by this big building dominating my deployment zone. Okay, I'm going to move on and let Kev explain where he's been deploying. So Kev, if you want to take things away with who's where.
So obviously I'm deployed in the opposite table quarter, won the initiative for deployment, so I decided to shaft Lee by putting as many of his models into that massive building as possible. Following the same thing that I said in the crew rundown, so leaving Bullock and Red Robin with lines of sight over to the GCPD detective, so I can start working the angles. It's nice and close to that light, so that I can start dropping some ski markers with ordering. Hopefully that means when I'm giving out some audacity, the further Batman goes away to beat up some outboys, my guys can still continue to function, and they're going to continue to score the rest of my deck.
I can see you put Officer Merkel up on the roof where he'll get some good use out of his grapple gun as well. So yeah, that's that, isn't it?
Yep, that's the job.
Cool. Right, just one last thing. I put down my owl markers when all deployment was done. We've got one here in the middle of the Batman crew, one in the middle there, hoping that's where some of the GCPD will be heading into the middle of the board, or maybe catch them further down the line. And finally, I managed to put one. I decided to put one out here in the park too, just to get some more board coverage. Probably find out that was a massive mistake as the game goes on, but yeah, we'll find out, won't we? Okay, I think we're ready to start turn 1. We just completed the first 2 phases of turn 1 then, and can report as follows. Kevin won the initiative for the turn, so he'll be going first, and he put down his suspect markers first, his audacity markers first, etc, etc. In terms of cards played, none were played in the first phase by either crew, but in the second phase, I, as the Court of Owls, was able to play Escape Plan, which is Calvin Rose's specific character-specific objective card, should I say, and he chose himself to be the recipient. It's 3 points if he at the end of the game is not removed as a casualty, which is kind of useful because there's not a huge amount of blood damage in the Batman crew to actually kill him outright, and he has the runaway trait, so he can't be arrested. So haha, says me. And the other card I put out was Terrible Accident from the hand. 3 points. It's a tricky one. It scores at the end of this turn if I've killed Batman, basically. Not really putting too much hopes on actually achieving that one for now, but it does help me cycle my deck, and who knows, maybe I'll get lucky or Batman will go crazy. And right, so in terms of where the audacity is being put out, I'll start with my crew. I gave one to Calvin Rose up there, one for the Talon William Cobb, and one each for the 2 people Talons down here next to the sewer markers. In terms of the Batman crew, I'll just go through them quickly. Batman and Red Robin himself, get the angle there, both obviously get audacity there. One for Bullock and one for Merkel up there, otherwise he'll be kind of stuck, unable to use his grapple gun, I presume. Kevin opted to use Batman's World's Greatest Detective and put some effort into it, as you can see there, and it was successful. So unfortunately for me, when I do get to go, the 1880s Talon will have to be revealing where her whereabouts will be at the for the purposes of my first activation. Great. Okay, that's it for the beginning. We're going to start off with the activations now and see who's going where.
Okay, so that was the first activation of round 1. It's a very simple one. It's the GCPD detective placing down a suspect marker. He could have moved, granted, but I don't want to get any closer to the Court of Owl models than I really need to. He's also going to be standing within 4 inches of the owl marker that you can see there. That from my experience of playing them the other day, being within 4 inches of that can actually stop the markers ticking over and scoring objectives for the opposing turn. So I'm going to pass on my activation now to Lee.
Well, due to the efforts of Batman, the world's greatest detective, the 1880s Talon had to go first on my crew, if you recall, and she was within inspiration distance of the court on top of the Star Store there, so she used her first freebie manipulate action to use the sewer marker, where she was deployed next to move here into the middle of the board, and then she can't move after using the sewer, and she has no attack actions or anything like that to do, so she just consoled herself by putting down a suspect marker there next to herself. The court really needs to get suspect markers out on the board in order to, use a lot of their faction-specific rules. Okay, that's basically her turn over, except that I did play the court secure bases as an objective card from the hand for 2 points, and basically I select this owl marker in the middle of the board. If there's end of each activation in the future where there's no enemy models of the Batman crew within 4 inches of it, it will start ticking a counter up. When that counter reaches 3, I'll score the lovely 2 points. It's a long-term effort, hopefully, and it just means that he's got to stay nearby my owl markers or concede points. Okay, let's move on back to the Batman crew.
Okay, so in the Batman activation, we activated Officer Merkel, who's already standing on top of a very large piece of scenery, waiting for a tram to come by on the Gotham Metro. And he's made the brave decision to not use his Batclaw. He has moved just once, so he can stroll outside of my deployment zone, and he has dropped a suspect marker, which will help me to do this, which I'm sure you've seen a million times before. He has placed down the snitch, which means I'll be scoring a nice easy 3 points off this, hopefully, as long as Lee doesn't get something within 4 inches, which let's hope he won't.
I decided to activate Ephraim Newhouse once I could actually choose who had the next go, and yes, he was likewise to the 1880s Talon before. He was trapped behind the Star Store over there, thankfully next to a sewer marker, so he was inspired and had audacity from the court, and so he used the inspiration based manipulate action to appear next to in the Batman crew's deployment zones. Let's get this party started properly, shall we? And yes, he then used his. He can't move after that. He used his tactical action to throw one of his throwing knives at Harvey Bullock, and as you can see, the two hits got through for 2 points of blood damage on the donut-toting police officer. And finally, just for a bit of fun, and because it's his turn, I played as a resource Talon's Claw, which doesn't cost any actual resource points, thank goodness. It allows me to mark an enemy suspect as an enemy model as prey, and Ephraim Newhouse's primary target rule allowed me to use that on the GCP detective down here, who because I could use the GCPD detective's own suspect marker to satisfy the requirement for that. Awesome. It's only Ephraim Newhouse can do that in his own activation, but it's so useful. And yes, so by staying near this owl marker to prevent me playing the court secure bases on it, he actually managed to set himself up to be marked as prey. You win some, lose some, I guess. And yeah, so there you go. GCPD detective is now prey, and Kevin loses his suspect marker. Nice.
Okay, well, after some shenanigans from the Court of Owls, I've decided to activate Batman, who's on his first victim of what might later turn into a game of whack-a-mole. Being hidden for being more than 6 inches away, we decided to go straight in. He bat-whiffed a little bit, but luckily he got away with it only because it was more difficult to defend punches, apparently. So the result being a knockout, and hopefully with Lee not in the room, that means that I'll be able to get this guy arrested by the end of the turn.
I'm a bit peeved about what happened to Ephraim, but Dementor activated next. He was on top of the building here. He didn't have audacity, but he was inspired by the presence of the court next to him. He just dropped down onto the ground and just moved over here with his movement action, and then used his inspiration-based manipulate to pop down a suspect marker next to him. That basically completes his turn. Not an awful lot going on for the court. That was a little bit to run down the clock a little bit, and he needed to go. So there we are.
Okay, well, my activation was Mr. Harvey Bullock. As you can realise from earlier, he was standing over here, so I used his detective skill to put down the suspect marker. And then never underestimate a fat man with coffee and a donut, who's walked down and, kind of playing into my hands. We will be arresting this guy.
Well, now that there's no one left to inspire, sorry, just trying to get the angle there, the court could actually move. They didn't have audacity, but they don't really need it. They used the special action as their one and only this turn, and activated the shadowed perch as their ability to move within 4 inches of a owl marker. Chose this owl marker, which I just actually moved. I forgot to mention it before. When Ephraim Newhouse was arrested, he counts as being removed as a casualty. That allows me to move an owl marker, so this one just shuffled back a little bit outside of 4 inches range of Red Robin there, and so yes, I pop down the court here. Okay, they can do nothing more. They don't have audacity, and there wouldn't be an awful lot they could do with it anyway. So yes, they're in the middle of the board now, ready to influence the remainder of the game, I hope.
Okay, so in another exciting move for the Batman crew, Agent 1 used her radio to drop down another suspect marker on the table edge, hint hint, and then wanted to get the hell out of Dodge, so used her full move to go and hide behind the bottom pillar of the Capital Metro station line. That keeps it within 4 inches of the owl marker, but more importantly, with his grappling hook and a ridiculous range, the Talon, who you can see standing all the way over there, is now likely to be out of range for combat. She might get a throwing knife.
Well, Calvin Rose activated next for the Court of Owls. He was on top of the Star Store, if you recall. He has a fairly prodigious movement, made better by the fact that he has genetic alteration as a purchasable war gear, so he got an extra 2-inch movement. And yes, he was able to bomb it all the way using his acrobatic ability to jump up onto the lorry, and then judicious use of a resource point and the Shadow Claw. Sorry, there you go. Just show you that. There you go. He was moving towards a GCPD detective who's carrying in the park over there. So, because he was moving directly towards him, got an extra 4 inches movement, allowed him to jump down off of the truck and to the gate of the park. So, it just gives him a good bit of threat there for next turn. Unfortunately, no points wrapped up in this, but need to start threatening the cops with something. Otherwise, this game's going to start running away from me.
Okay, so in my activation, I went with Red Robin. He started off down underneath the Metroway here, but with audacity has used his backlaw to go almost the full 16 inches, and has manipulated a suspect marker that was dropped earlier on by the Court of Owls, and he's done that just in order to score the card, which is comb through everything. That also allows me to play around a little bit with my objective hand, so I can grab some stuff that will be easier to score later on.
And to round off the turn's activations, William Cobb, the Talon, activated and just moved around from his audacity counter around here into inspiration range for next turn from the court. Could have used his back claw, but I thought I might need it next turn, keep the options open when he's in a much more central position. He had audacity, so he just consoled himself with not being able to slash anyone up by putting down a suspect marker, and is a resource played with my last resource point. I played the court's edit in order to, there's the text, it's the court's own personalised card. It's really powerful in this context. For my last resource point, I managed to bring Ephraim Newhouse back onto the board and pop him down within 4 inches, nice and central again, to which Kevin attempted to thwart me by playing Get Them Off the Streets as a resource there for 2 of his resource points, but I in turn had William Cobb's exhaustive planner trait cancel that one out. So overall I did get Ephraim Newhouse back. Bit of shenanigans there. Exhaustive planner only works once per game though, so there we are. But yes, this Court's Edicts card is now out of the deck altogether, because you can only do this once per game. Obviously it would be rather too powerful if you could just continue to draw it and play it every turn. But yes, that completes the turn's activations. We're going to move to the recount phase and do some tidying up now, okay? And see you in a second. Okay, the fourth phase now completed. That's recount done. Just to reveal from cards scored, Terrible Accident doesn't score, of course, for the Court of Owls. There was very little chance of it anyway, but yes, Batman wasn't even scratched during the course of that turn. The only damage he took was from his own efforts. In terms of the Batman Cruise cards, as you know, as in it was fairly inevitable, the snitch marker up there does score for a lovely 3 points for the Batman crew. That will become a normal suspect marker now. And coming from the Batman crew's hand, secure the perimeter. Nice easy card to score usually. 2 points, remove 2 friendly suspect markers within 2 inches of a board edge. They have these 2 here, and Kevin's just about to remove them for me now. Okay, yes, each model that had stun damage took 1 point of it off, and that pretty much concludes the end of the turn. No cards scored for the Court of Owls as yet, but as the crews close, hopefully that will change. And yeah, we'll move on now to turn number 2.
Okay, here we are starting off into round number 2. As you can see, there are some extra markers that have popped up that we didn't have last turn, so let's see why they are. The Batman player, myself, we won initiative, and we've chucked out our Audacity markers. So we've got one on Red Robin, one over on Batman, one on Bullock, and one on Officer Merkel, because otherwise you won't be able to get down. And in short, we've also got Audacity counters on Talon Bloke 1, Talon Bloke with Fancy Name, The Talon, and Killy Talon Guy.
No, not that one. And we've got one on 1882.
Oh.
The Lady Talon. There you go.
They all look the same, people. They all look the same.
They all do the same thing. They all stab him.
So first thing Lee came out with is Gotham is Ours, which is a nice card that allows him to put out 3 suspect markers, 2 on scenery pieces of his choice and 1 of my choice. So there's one over here, down by the star, 1 at the back, down by the crates and boxes, and I chose to have mine placed by this dumpster over in the corner. And then to follow that up with, a second card was played by Lee. This one's called Owl's Night, and the shorthand version of this is he needs to have made casualties of more of my models.
You've got suspect.
Oh yeah, then I've got suspect markers, which I should be pretty strong against, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so first activation of the Batman crew's turn, we went straight away with Red Robin. This was mainly because I'd managed to fluff the greatest detective on Batman, which meant that I'd be activating in normal activation order. Knowing that Red Robin may not survive too long while surrounded by 3 members of the Owl of Courts, or Court of Owls even, he's asked the GCPD detective to drop down a suspect marker by using his order ability, made a move, and then ran in and threw his electromagnetic chain bolas over at the Talon, which has got a grappling hook, so effectively negating that and just giving him a point of stunned.
As Kevin said, I had full choice of who I got to activate first, and decided to go with Calvin Rose, who was over by the gate. He sprinted up to the GCB detective, who, if you recall, was marked as prey, and yes, there was a swift exchange, short, sharp words, and even worse, knives. And yes, GCB detective put in 2 efforts against Calvin Rose. Calvin Rose wasn't messing about, put maximum effort in though, so to more than nullify out the defensive efforts. And yes, after all was said and done, 5 points of blood got through. That owl knife, the buff to the owl knife, giving it handy, sharp and crushing, is just so useful. Meant that 5 points of blood damage got through, which was enough to remove GCPD detective from the game. Yay, says me. Because he was marked as prey, Talon's Claw, good score, so finally on the scoreboard with the Court of Owls for 2 points. Remove an enemy model marked as prey as a casualty, really nice. And of course this triggers off a whole bunch of other things for the Court of Owls, hurrah. The owl marker, which was over here, has now shuffled back to within 4 inches of Robin here. Incidentally, this owl marker has since scored the Court secure bases, so just bear with me. Yeah, like I said, there was a lot to keep up. Actually, in Kevin's last activation it did that, but we forgot to mention it. So yes, 2 points also for the Court of Owls on that, because this counter had ticked down to up to 3, sorry. Yes, that owl marker moved, and of course, as I'd killed someone who was marked as prey, the court itself managed to instantly take an action, one of their special actions. They decided to demotivate Red Robin successfully. They put a bit of effort in, and so he has his effort. He has enervating 2 now, because they told him he smells. And he believed them. What a fool. Okay, that concludes this rather lengthy turn of chain reactions, but nonetheless 4 points for the Court of Owls in 1 activation almost, so there you go. Newly back from the dead, or very recently bailed from the police cells, within 1 turn in fact, Ephraim Newhouse got to go, and he was inspired by the court. There's his audacity counter there, because I left it on the board again. Nice one, me. He activated with audacity, like I said. He moved across to here. He used his last throwing knife on the GCP, on the I think it's Agent 1. Thank you, Kevin. To do 3 points of blood damage, because he didn't fail a single die roll. He then used his inspiration-based manipulate action to put down a suspect marker and score the Shadow Claw. There it is. I think we've had this one already, maybe, can't remember. 2 points, place suspect within 4 inches of an enemy model. There's at least 1 blood marker, and he just did that. So 2 points scored, nice. So that's his turn completed. Finally, as a resource card, an Owl's Tail came out. I'll just show you the details. It just basically allowed this suspect marker that William Cobb put down last turn to be removed and marked Red Robin as prey. So yes, it's not been a great turn for Red Robin since he had his activation. He thinks he smells, and now he's marked as prey by the Court of Owls. There's been better days. Okay, we'll move on now to the Batman crew.
Okay, so Batman, in response to that, the lovely Agent 1, who's just been stabbed ever so slightly to the point of she may not have a turn next turn, has decided to activate. There is a card that the Court of Owls played, which means I really need to remove that suspect marker that I was allowed to place down near that scenery piece, which is the dumpster. Otherwise, he's going to start scoring from it. So she's got a radio, but she was also inspired, and her actions were just to walk over, and she'll be removing that suspect marker.
Yep, and that also puts 1 point of blood damage on the Court of Owls because of their intel support rule. So you're keeping track of that, don't worry. Okay, just decided to activate the court there. They don't have audacity because why would you? They're just activating boss's orders. So that's the special activation they have, whereby if any of my henchmen attack someone within 8 inches, they get +1 to hit, which is lovely. It's a little bubble with the stinky, smelly prey Red Robin here. Okay, back to Kevin.
Okay, this is back to the Batman crew's turn. I was going to use a pass marker, but unfortunately off camera I'd used it a little bit earlier. So Batman had activated. He was over here by Bullock. Decided to come along, and in a repeat of deja vu, has now managed to knock exactly the same owl out again, which is great, because it might just save the 2 people that I've got hidden down here at the back. Also means I'm going to be able to carry on with my objectives, so hopefully I'll be able to activate Bullock soon so I can come up and arrest him.
Well, don't give anything away, Kevin. I might be able to stop him with my 0 ability.
It's it's certainly the less dynamic duo. It's more like sort of Adam West, and then Adam West as he is now.
Okay, Court of Owls up with a Dementor next. He doesn't have audacity, so he's very curtailed in what he can do. He's not even close enough to inspire. Boo. But never mind. He decided he'd use his special activate action to inspire fear in Red Robin, who's having a great turn. And unfortunately, despite putting some effort in to give Robin a straight roll instead of 3 dice, choose the 2 he liked, Robin wasn't scared of him, so no adverse effect there for Inspire Fear. However, just to recount, managed to play the Court Secure bases as an objective from the hand. That's the one we saw before, 2 points, and the owl marker chosen this time is the one in the park over there that the GCPD detective was locking down. But yes, if 3 more of Kevin's models activate and there's no models nearby that owl marker, I'll get 2 victory points. Lovely. Okay, back to Batman.
Okay, back to my turn, the Batman player's turn. Well, yeah, as previously predicted and hoped, I activated Bullock next with Audacity. I took a stroll up, munching on a donut, and we've decided to arrest yet again the same person. But this time I had a card that I could actually play to score some points. So we've got Get Them Off the Streets, which I'm going to score a nice 3 points for purely arresting a model, which I've already arrested. Harvey's now standing next to Batman with an enemy suspect marker underneath him, and he'll be using his evidence tampering ability. That will allow him to remove that marker and replace it with one of my own, which hopefully will come in useful for me by the end of the turn.
I activated 1880's Talon next. She was just behind the truck where her Audacity counter is, because I always leave them on because I'm stupid. Like I said, she had Audacity. She wandered round the corner and engaged Robin in close combat. She has her Gladius. She also has Ancient Weapon on it as a purchasable war gear. It gave it bleed 1. So when she did duly roll that 6 for her strength die, she caused a critical hit, which is lovely. Yes, boss's orders and her own overwhelming ability came into play to basically render this Robin sushi with 9 points of blood on him. He was enervated, don't forget, from earlier on in the turn because of the demotivating effect of the court, so he can only effort once compared to my 3 times. So yeah, I really did stack the odds in my favour, and Red Robin paid the price there. There's not many models that could have taken that barrage, to be perfectly honest, and he's no exception. He's not particularly defensively minded. He's a tough target, but yeah, no one could have stood up to that, not when they're marked as prey by the court. Yes, doing that allowed me to play Talon's Claw as a objective, so for 2 points removed another enemy model as prey as a casualty. So yes, very thematic, very very cool, and that's that done. Right, so back to Batman.
Okay, so back around to the Batman crew turn. Officer Merkel decided to activate. Originally he was up on top of the metro station platform roof, but having dropped a marker there already, I couldn't place another snitch marker without A, being in my own deployment zone, or B, being within 4 inches of my own suspect marker. So he's used his Bat Claw. This has dropped him down here, which makes him just outside of my deployment zone, and if my math is correct, keeps me away from the Talon over there, which means I should get away with scoring this turn. So he's used his things to drop down another snitch marker, and hopefully, because that guy's so far away, I'll score and still be alive next turn, because I don't think he can reach.
And yeah, the last activation for the second turn is William Cobb, the Talon. Yes, he was over here, but he got his balls tased by Red Robin earlier in the turn, so he was -6 to his movement. So even with his back claw, he could only waddle along to this part of the board and put down a suspect marker with his Audacity token. That basically finishes his activation, and I think we'll go to the recount phase next. I don't think there's anyone else to go.
Okay, so everyone's activated and we're into the recount stage of the turn. As far as scoring goes, Officer Merkel has managed to maintain the fact that he's got the snitch marker there, and that would just be changed out for a normal suspect marker, should I say. Going into the other bits and bobs that are scored, so obviously scored the snitch, wonderful. I've also scored Secure the Perimeter, having the one that Harvey Bullock swapped out with one of the Talons, and the one that the brave officer had already placed before he was brutally beaten and killed. So both of those will get removed. For the Court of Owls and their loveliness, we have the Owl's Night, which was basically KOing my models, which shouldn't be an easy one to score. However, they did take out 2 prey, which were both Red Robin and the GCPD detective. So that scores that instantly for the Court of Owls. And then the second one that was scored is Gotham Was Ours. So the 2 scenery elements that were picked by Lee both had their markers next to them. And the one marker that was left next to the dumpster, which was down here originally, although Agent 1 went in and removed, subsequently another one was placed, scoring another 2.
Right, into turn 3, and boy, we've got some stuff to recount now. The first 2 phases are all complete. Take the lead and raise the plan, respectively. In the take the lead phase, Kevin, the Batman crew, won the initiative again for turn 3 turns running now. Oh well. And no cards, however, played by them in either of the 2 phases for objectives. I, however, managed to get off quite a few. In terms of Owl's Night, again, the one where I have to make more models casualty than he has suspect markers. Speculative, but worked last turn. Terrible Accident came out again for 3 points. If I can make Batman have a horrible day and kill him before the end of the turn, that will score for me. Difficult again, but not impossible. And finally, again, Gotham Is Ours, just the same as last turn for 2 points. One where we select pieces of scenery and I have to have suspects within 4 inches of them. On this occasion, Batman chose this park bench, so I popped a suspect marker there, and I chose this car, the suspect marker here, and the truck, lorry, with the suspect marker there. Okay, so so that actually empties me out of suspect markers for the time being, so that's fun. No more for me to be able to put down, but this is mitigated slightly by the fact that I then actually played an Owl's Tail as a resource in this phase for 0 cost to actually mark Agent 1 here as prey. That does, however, pick up that suspect marker, giving me one back in the pool to draw from. So that's fun. So Kevin's going first. Oh yes, Audacity tokens. Every single model on Kevin's crew has Audacity because he has 4 models left. I picked the 4 Talons. So yes, William Cobb, Dementor here, 1880s Talon, and Calvin Rose all the way over in the corner over there. Okay, I think we're now ready to start activating and get this 3rd turn underway.
Okay, so Batman crew first activation was actually Batman jumping over and hitting the Talon. He actually didn't do that many hits, however the Talon didn't do that much in defense either. Managed to do just enough to make him a knockout, which suits me down to the ground because I'm hoping to double tag team him and potentially arrest him if I'm lucky.
Dementor decided it was finally time for him to get in the mix. Actually, he had to go because of Batman's greatest detective role earlier, forcing me to activate him first. He was over on this car originally. He has Audacity, so he moved up. It was out of range to do anything else, but so he put down a suspect marker, and doing so enabled him to play an Owl's Tail as an objective from the hand for 2 points. You have at least 2 friendly owl markers and 1 friendly suspect within 4 inches of the same enemy model, and that is met by, Batman at least. So yes, two owl markers and the new suspect. So 2 points for me. Okay, moving back to Batman.
So in the Batman crew activation, it was Agent 1 who bravely stepped forward to make the arrest, which is great. I know she's already prey. I know it already puts her into a position where she could be in a lot of trouble going forward, but at the same time she can walk around there and she can remove that owl suspect marker as well. Just so happens that at the same time I had the Get Them Off the Streets card in my hand, which is going to give me a nice 3 points for that little valuable arrest. The court secure bases also ticked over due to models activating down in the bottom corner in the park, where I've not had a model for quite some time. In fact, it's fair to say I've been playing very defensively because I know the speed of the Court of Owls at the moment, and I haven't really moved from my 12-inch deployment zone. But at the moment, it might just pay off.
A nice straightforward turn for Calvin Rose next. He just sprinted as fast as his little legs could carry him from one end of the park to the other towards Officer Merkel. He had audacity, so he used the opportunity to put down his suspect marker as well, because he really couldn't quite get into close combat range there. As a objective from the hand though, the last court secure bases card came out for the Court of Owls, and they opted to go with the park based owl again, because why not? There's no enemies around there. And so hopefully that'll be a nice 2 points to score by the end of the game if there's enough activations in it. That concludes the Owls activation for now.
Okay, so the Batman's crew next activation was Officer Merkel. He's originally standing over here where he backclawed down and dropped off a snitch marker, which is now a normal suspect. Quite like to drop another suspect marker, but standing in the belly of the beast, so to speak, and can't drop another one within 4 inches. So discretion being the better part of valor, we took a shot. The efforts were put in to make sure that I effectively, after shooting through the fence, had 0 dice, and we have run. We've run the 10 inches over to here. Then decided to play the wait for backup card, which means after each activation I roll a dice and add 1 to it. It goes down after each activation. If I get to 0 and I'm still within 4 of the chosen board edge, which is this long board edge that I'm looking at now, Officer Merkel's going to score me the 2 points. I rolled a 4, plus 1 is 5. There's still a couple of activations left this turn, so I'm hoping if I can grab initiative for the 4th time in a row next turn, or at least force someone else to activate through Batman's ability, being the world's best detective, I should be able to pull this off.
1880s Talon swept into play. She vaulted easily with her acrobatic skill over the car and into combat with Agent 1, who was marked as prey, if you recall. She then played as a resource from the hand Terrible Accident, which is awesome, incidentally. For 1 resource point, gave her 3 free efforts against the prey. As you can see, Kevin put his maximum effort back in, but it was to no avail, as slice and dice happened and Agent 1 is no more. Nothing to score from that, unfortunately. However, it does help put 3 counters markers on the Owl's Night objective I played earlier in the turn, so there you go. And another model down. Okay, that concludes 1880s Talon's turn.
Okay, so back round to the Batman crew. Harvey Bullock was left to go, and as you can see, he's done a bit of a meander and uses detective skill to drop down another suspect marker, which of course being the last of the snitches that I happen to have in my hand. Lee was saying that he's still got opportunities to use the Court of Owls, but as to whether they would have an actual impact at this late stage of the round, he's going to leave them as is.
Okay, we've just done the recount phase for turn number 3. And in terms of cards scored, the snitch marker was very straightforward to score, so 3 points for Kevin's Batman crew. Of my cards in the Court of Owls, only Gotham is Ours managed to score for 2 points, because all the suspect markers I put out at the beginning are still on the board, and yes, so those scenery pieces are well and truly claimed. Yes. Unfortunately for me though, Terrible Accident and Owl's Night don't score because on the one hand Batman is as yet unscratched, and on the other I only got 3 markers on the card for killing a member of prey, and there are 3 Batman crew suspect markers on the board, so no scores on that one for me, unfortunately, but yeah, plenty in the can. Okay, that's basically it. We'll move on to the last turn, so you can score those last few crucial points with the models left on the board.
Okay, so we're into the final round. Yet again, I've managed to win the initiative with the Batman crew. As you can see, just taking in what we've actually got going on, the remaining models, there are so few that everybody gets Audacity. Audacity is all around. So we're getting to that point now. Yeah, it's the last few points. Try not to die. Death or glory. Okay, so here we are with the first activation of the Batman crew. After the raise the plan step, Batman did use the world's greatest detective to make sure that the Court of Owls was going first, which is great for me. They're great for buffing, but I effectively get 2 activations in a row, that's great. That plays to the strengths. Officer Merkel was down here, slightly crapping himself, waiting for backup to arrive. As per the card that I played, the activations have all cycled round, and he's used his back claw, as he didn't use it last turn, to come back up here. So he's still within 4 inches of the same table edge that I'd picked, and he is now down to 1 more activation before he can score that card. So for 2 points, we're calling that a bonus, and his activation is finished.
And yeah, as said before, the court has to be the first model to activate for me, which is rather frustrating for this last turn. And yes, so there they are. They've only got one thing they can do, despite having Audacity. I've run out of suspect markers to place, for example, but they're just going to activate boss's orders as a special action. So every henchman within 8 inches gets +1 to hit, basically, for the remainder of the turn. Not bad. But yeah, that concludes their go for the game.
Okay, so as we last saw, the Court of Owls have activated, which means that I can now score my wait for backup. Well done, Merkel. It's done a whole lot of jumping around, but whatever scores points. And then we've got Batman. As you can see, Batman was firstly surrounded by all of the talons, and I had the option with Audacity of punching one and running away, or not punching one. Discretion being the better part of valor. I used the back claw to go the full 16 inches, and then detective to get the extra 3 inches to remove the suspect marker that was outside the front of the star. In turn, I then played following the clues, which is a reveal an enemy suspect marker 10 inches away from the board edge, by a model with a detective trait, which of course Batman's got, and Bullock had no chance of getting there. That was the end of his turn.
Dementor activated next and moved into base contact with Harvey Bullock. He has Audacity, so he put down a suspect marker. He was also inspired by the proximity of the court as well. Putting down the suspect marker enabled him to play the Shadow Claw from the hand as an objective for 2 points, because Bullock was carrying those 2 blood from earlier knife throwing incidents earlier in the game. So suspect marker in 4 inches of him scored me 2 points. Nice. Dementor then tried to inspire fear in Bullock, but Bullock's been eating, he's on too much of a sugar high to be scared at the moment, so no worries there. And yes, finally, despite putting in all the efforts that he possibly could, Dementor could only do 2 hits on Bullock when he attacked him in close combat for 2 blood and 2 stun, which is not enough to put this guy out of action. Bullock's had a much better game than I've ever been able to manage with him, in that he's survived to the last turn and may well survive the end of the game.
Okay, so that's the last activation for the Batman crew. After Bullock was attacked by the Dementor, he realised that everywhere was closed and there was nowhere else to get coffee and donuts. So he revealed the suspect marker using his detective skill, which Dementor was standing next to. That allows me to score the comb through everything objective card that we talked about earlier on. I drew an additional objective card, didn't actually do anything useful for me.
2 points.
Other than the obligatory 2 points, which is great. He's then moved his full 8 inches to get the hell out of dodge. Lee reliably informs me that he's got nothing else in his hand that's going to allow him to score, and he can't really cycle his cards. So it does, at this point, look like the end of the game.
Okay, and as Kevin said, that was the last activation of the turn. I had a real bag of nails in my objective card hand for the last turn, and there's nothing, even with all these fast models around, that I can score. I can't even play resources, unfortunately. It's just not set up quite right for me to be able to do so. But I've been quite active in the past couple of turns, so I paid the price for it. In terms of cards to score in this recount phase, I forgot to mention earlier that the court secure bases scored relating to that owl marker in the park over there. So yeah, that would have been 2 points a few activations ago. Finally, the card played right at the beginning of the game, Escape Plan for Calvin Rose. He's still alive and running around in the park, happy. For 3 points, he was never going to really be taken out, so that was a nice easy score for me. Just lucky it came up in the hand at all, I suppose. Okay, I believe there's no other cards scored from either player's hand in this last turn, so everything's been done. We'll go to the final count and then have some final thoughts. Okay, here we are then. I've got my scored pile in hand. Let's go through it now. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21 and 24 points. Fairly respectable. I like that.
Solid.
It is pretty good. Right, so Kev, you got your score pile over there. Do you want to do yours if I bring the camera around? Just a clear bit of space.
What are you on, 24?
I'm on 24. Don't count the cards. Just
cards. 2, 4, 6, 9, 12, 15, 17, 20,
no way.
23, I think.
24.
5.
21. I win.
No, 27. 27's all good.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, there you go. Once again, Batman crew gets outbeaten on the pitch, but then when it comes to scoring, their deck really comes in to save them, and yeah, that's exactly what it's all about, because it's all about the heroes battling through to win against the odds. And yes, I mean, the Court of Owls is good. The Court of Owls is brutal and very thematic, but unfortunately got beaten this time, and I'm feeling kind of embarrassed. Damn it. Never mind. Yeah, I thought that game went really well. I genuinely had no idea who won, or what the score was, which is why I keep the scores separate from the end to the end. It's much more fun that way, I think, Kev. Yeah.
The not knowing makes you commit more.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's much more fun. I know there's some crews or even like particular models, which mean you've got to keep track of your score as you go along. I haven't used those yet, and obviously I'd do so in those circumstances. But if I get the choice, I'd rather not know what the running total was. Yeah, I think the Court of Owls plays very thematically with its current deck in its current iteration. Its new models fit in really well. And yeah, they're still on the board, so obviously they're doing something right. Anything you want to say, Kev? Anything if you picked up on? Did you think Red Robin really smells? Or
no, I think when I first took the crew that I took, I weighed too heavily into things like being a detective, having hacking, giving orders. I think if I was going to swap one member, I'd probably swap out Red Robin.
What, for someone who deals more damage, perhaps? Like Katana or Red Hood or something?
Yeah, Red Hood. Red Hood's a perfect example. Again, though, he's just another element of stun or blood damage, but with blood damage, at least then I can take your guys out of action or casualty your guys without having to arrest them. And when you've got one model you cannot arrest, that guy's a free for all in this group.
Yeah, I noticed you were a lot more careful this time about making sure you knocked out and then arrested straight away. Not a single time did any of my models get their automatic get back up through being reanimated owls. So yeah, that I thought that worked a lot better. But yeah, being able to do blood damage off the bat with the Red Hood is a really good ability. And yeah, I think overall, the game worked really well. I like the board, and I had a lot of fun. So thanks very much for coming around, man. And we'll do this again soon, I hope, and get some more back reports done. Okay, I hope you guys all enjoyed it as well. Please feel free to let me know, or let us know. Now it's shared responsibility. You can be as cruel as you want. I'll blame Kev. And anything we got wrong or anything you liked is good to know. YouTube it boosts viewability by the amount of comments and engagement, as they call it. I think, yeah, so it's like an eldritch god in that respect. So yeah, if you want to put anything down, that's great. If not, that's also great. Thanks for watching nonetheless. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We did, hopefully. And yeah, I'll see you next time.